Welcome to Startup Hack. I'm Spencer Thomason, and here at Startup Hack, we love to train software developers and build custom software solutions. So I do a lot of work as a fractional CTO with over a decade of executive leadership and a solid 25 years in software development. I've mastered the art of transforming technology, teams, and products. All right, this is a take two. I just went through one. Appreciate that Street Taco was telling me that I was muted. Apparently somebody came in and messed on my settings over the weekend. Anyways. Joy having kids. All right, let's dive into a topic I think, going to make a wave across the tech industry. Now, this may not be something that people are standing around talking over the water cooler, so I want to make sure that I get everybody involved and educated on why this could affect you, right? The Federal Reserve's decision to slash interest rates. So you might be wondering, what does this mean for me as a software developer or for someone working in tech? Well, it's a big deal, and today I'm going to break it down for you on the implication of what these rate cuts mean. So from project funding to job security, the Fed's actions are going to have a ripple effect on everything we do. So let's dive in today and figure out what these changes are going to affect us. All right, so let's dive into this topic here, right? So the first point is, what do rate cuts mean for tech funding? So let's start with the most obvious impact, funding. Lower interest rates means that borrowing money becomes cheaper. For tech companies, this could unlock new funding opportunities that were previously out of reach. For tech companies, you might be able to dig in and see a surge in new projects because startups are getting off the ground and innovation can become across the board. But it's not just a free-for-all. Companies will still need to prove their worth to get that funding. The rate cuts are going to be a start, but they're not going to be the end of the world, nor is it a guarantee, because companies are still driving for efficiency. And rates will still be high, but just not as high as they have been. Now, next up, let's talk about the latest job reports. So it shows the economy is weaker than the Fed originally thought, right? So late last week, almost 1 million jobs were adjusted according to the job report, which definitely showed that the Fed has to cut rates. It's not a matter of if, but when and for how and how much. So those of us in tech, this means that competition for fewer jobs. So companies are being cautious, and that's not going to change overnight. The silver lining is that cheaper money could help get some companies to avoid layoffs or even start hiring again as the opportunities to expand. And that's what I think that we'll see, is I think we'll see a start of a lot of these projects in 2024 and a really big surge coming in 2025. So I think it'll be a warm up into 2024. Now, here's the big question. Will these rates really save tech jobs or add new ones? And the answer is maybe. Companies that were on the brink of layoffs might be able to hold on to their employees a little longer now that money is cheaper. It's not a magic bullet, and if the underlying business isn't strong, no amount of cheap money will save it. So we might see a temporary boost in job security. Long-term outlook will still depend on how the broader economy responds to these cuts. There's been a lot of companies that have been artificially propped up with some free money from COVID. And so we may still see some of those companies fall. I also think we're seeing some of our larger companies like Intel and Cisco and some of these that are just now getting to their layoffs from some of that free COVID money. Now, I've talked about this before. There was a huge staff up for COVID. And then, of course, what was going to happen with that? They're going to vote people off the island. It's a game. You can either use two different analogies, either Survivor, where you got to vote people off the island, or Hunger Games, where everybody's kind of vying for the same jobs, right? So if you want to make sure as a developer, you do want to make sure that your skills are up to date. So go back and check out our previous videos, because we have hundreds of coding videos, all with free coding samples. And so make sure you go back and like and subscribe to the channel, because we provide a ton of different coding samples for you. Now, let's talk about startups. They're the lifeblood of the innovation in tech, and we're particularly sensitive to the interest rates. With the Fed slashing rates, we could see a flurry of startup activity as entrepreneurs take advantage of cheaper loans to launch new ventures. This is great news for those who are looking to get in on the ground floor of the next big thing. But remember, just because it's easier to get funding doesn't mean it's easier to succeed. Startups will still need a solid business model and execution to thrive. So again, here at Startup Hack, we love to train software developers in our coding bootcamp. So maybe if you were in a technical job and want to start development, you're a great candidate to dive into some of our coding bootcamps. I know I have some friends that are over at Intel, and Intel's offering a very generous severance package for people who want to voluntarily leave instead of having to be laid off. And I know I have some friends who are thinking, this might be a great, launch event into a startup. Now, we've all felt what we've really seen here is some pent-up development, right? And I think we're ready to see that unleash. And I've seen this over and over again. I saw it with the dot-com bubble crash. I saw it with the 2008, 2009 funding crashes. Saw it in COVID. We see that these projects get put on the shelf when funding becomes tricky, and then people come back to them and they still want to do these projects. And one of these big projects right now is AI, right? Every corporation wants to include AI into their workforce, into their products somehow. So with cheaper money, companies may finally greenlight those pent-up development projects that have been gathering dust on the shelf. This could mean more work, more innovation, and more opportunities for developers. So I don't know if it's going to be like opening a floodgate, but I think we might start to see the irrigation channel come open a little bit once the money starts to flow and the development will follow. Now, big tech companies aren't just bystanders in these scenarios. They're major players. Companies like Apple and Google and Amazon have massive cash reserves, but even they can benefit from cheaper borrowing costs. We might see big tech double down on investments in new companies, acquisitions, and R&D. For developers, this could mean more job opportunities in these tech giants as they expand their operations. But it could also mean more competition as these companies continue to dominate the market. So what about freelancers? Freelancers and contractors, I'm talking to you now. So rate cuts can be a mixed bag. On one hand, there could be some work companies that as they transition into more full-time roles could be looking to move away from contract, or if the company is still on shaky ground, you may see them continue to trim off some contract work, right? Because it seems like that's always the first thing that gets hit. That's kind of by design for contract work. So if companies are still cautious, they might cut back on external contractors to save money. The key here is to stay flexible and ready to pivot if you can offer value in a cost-effective way. So I think you'll be in a good position to capitalize on these new opportunities as they arise. Here at Startup Hack, we love to build custom software for people. So if you have one of these projects that are sitting on the shelf, reach out. I am sure we can find a very good cost-effective way to get these projects off the shelf and get started for you in your organization. Now, let's address the elephant in the room, inflation. Cutting rates too quickly can lead back to inflation, which could erode the purchasing power of the money you're making. So for tech companies, this could mean higher costs for everything from salaries to server rack space. So it's a balancing act for the Fed. And for us in tech, it means staying vigilant. If inflation starts to creep up, we might see companies tighten their belts again, which could slow down the growth that we're hoping for. So speaking of the long term, let's talk about long-term viability of tech investment. So consider the viability of tech investments in this new environment. Lower rates will boost short-term growth, but what about the long haul? Companies that rely too heavily on cheap money will see with the problem that we saw through COVID, right? They might find themselves in trouble if rates go back up or if the economy doesn't recover as expected. So it's crucial for tech companies to use this time wisely, invest in sustainable growth, not just quick wins. So for developers, this means aligning yourself with companies that have a solid long-term vision. Also, as developers, it means you want to really solidify your skills. So check out our previous samples because we have hundreds of different coding samples that we do absolutely for free. And here we love to train software developers. So if you're in a non-technical role and you would like to move into a technical role, check us out because we have some great opportunities that your company can get free funding to move you into a technical role and train you how to be a developer. So check out startuphack.com and we can learn more about our coding boot camps. Now, government policy is going to play a big role in how all this unfolds. The Fed's decisions are just one piece of the puzzle, but tax policies, regulations, the R&D tax credit, we've seen a lot of things affect what's affecting layoffs right now, right? And so other government actions will shape the tech landscape, right? Regulations can have huge impacts. So for developers and tech companies, staying informed about these policies is critical. Whether it's an incentive for R&D or new regulations on data privacy, government actions will impact everything from job security to project funding. So knowledge is power, so keep your fingers on the pulse. Now, with all this uncertainty, one thing remains clear. Upskilling is more important than ever. As companies navigate this new landscape, they're going to be looking for developers who can hit the ground running with the latest technology. So whether you're junior, whether you're senior, invest in your education, and it'll pay big dividends down the road. If you're working with an obscure tech, grab our coding bootcamp because we can get you up to speed with the latest and greatest .NET and Angular and the full coding boot stack, full stack coding bootcamp in just a few months. So whether you're learning a new programming language or get certified in cloud computing, stay ahead of the curve. And it'll make you a valuable asset in this economic climate. So reach out to us at startuphack.com because we can help you out with that. Now, finally, let's talk about being prepared for the unexpected. The tech industry is known for its rapid pace of change. And the Fed rate cuts are just one more factor adding to that volatility. So the best way to navigate this uncertainty is to stay adaptable, keep learning, and be ready to pivot when needed. Whether you're a developer, a contract, or a startup founder, the opportunities are there. It's never been easier to succeed in tech than now, but you just need to be prepared and seize those opportunities when they arise. So the Fed's decision to slash rates is going to have a big impact on the tech industry. I think we're going to really see this in the latter half of 2024 and into 2025. From unlocking new funding opportunities to influencing job security and startup activity, these rate cuts are going to be a game changer. With potential comes uncertainty, as always, and it's up to us in tech to stay informed, keep our skills sharp, and be ready to adapt. The road ahead may be bumpy, but those who are prepared can also have a lot of opportunity. So what are your thoughts? Do you agree? Do you disagree? The best compliment I can get is when you guys comment, especially during my lives, but even after the fact. I love to have engaging conversations, and I get people who don't agree with me all the time. So I love it. Like, I love when people comment in my videos. So make sure you comment, because I love having a great discussion. Here at Startup Hack, we love to train software developers in our coding boot camps that provide one-on-one training as well as custom software solutions. So reach out, because we'd love to help. Hit the links down below. Check out startuphack.com today, and make sure you go back and check out our previous video, because we have hundreds of free coding samples that can help. But make sure you like and subscribe, and we will catch you guys next time. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel, because we bring you lots of great tutorials and tips that every developer should know. See you next time.